Hello, everybody. This is Angie. I am so excited that you decided to join me today for How to Travel and Stay Friends, a group travel webinar. So, how to travel together and stay friends. I am super excited to talk about this topic. I am particularly passionate about this topic because one of my favorite things to do is travel with my friends. So this is a picture you can see from a group cruise we did to the Southern Caribbean a couple years ago, all dressed up on formal night. I specialize in obviously group travel, all-inclusive Caribbean resorts, cruises, bucket list trips, and Disney World vacations. I think it's a really fun puzzle to figure out which location is going to work best for your group and which resort is going to meet all of your group members' needs, or at least the most important ones. Because one thing I found in planning group travel is that it is really hard to take everyone's priorities and considerations and meld that all together in a location where everyone will be happy. So that's why I put together this little webinar and why I love to specialize in these kind of trips. So let's start with what we're going to cover. Vacation options ideal for groups, how to make decisions, the important conversation you have to have with all your guests, and then how to save money, everyone's favorite topic. So to start with, when we talk about vacation options ideal for groups, there's a few key factors that are really important as we make those decisions. Length of trip. Are all of your guests committed to the same length of vacation, or will you need flexibility so guests can stay for a shorter or longer length of time? To give you an example, if you are planning to go for a week to a key location, but what you're hearing back from all of your friends and family are that, hey, we just want to come for the weekend, that's going to lead you in a different direction for what type of vacation you pick. Variety of activities. Do all of your guests share the same interests and want to participate in the same activities? What's the variety of budgets that are available? Can everyone commit to the same price point, or is it important to have customization options to accommodate different budgets? Are there some people who are going to want to have the nicest suite in the place, and then other people who are just fine with a double bed at the least expensive room? What is that commonality on budget? Level of decision making on the trip. And what I mean by this is, are you a group that can easily make decisions on the fly? Are you the group that when you're all together, somebody says, hey, let's all go to dinner, and you guys can easily find an option that works best for everybody? Or are you the group that's standing on the sidewalk arguing about where you're going to go for dinner? Everybody's saying they don't care. Somebody throws out a suggestion, and then everybody says no to that, even though they just said they didn't care. That's what we need to understand. Because if you're the second kind of group, the kind of group that has a really hard time making decisions, we want to make sure you have a trip with a more structured agenda so that there aren't all those decisions that have to get made on the fly. Adults only versus family friendly. Is this an adults only trip? Is this a couples only trip? Are you looking for a place that has lots of kid-friendly activities? What are the ages of the kids going to be? Because that'll make a difference between different resorts. So who are we really planning this vacation for? And then lastly, are we going somewhere that requires a passport? If everybody has a passport, then you're good to go. If everybody doesn't, then that's something you really need to take a look at. And so what I want to look at next is different vacation options and what kind of group they'd be best for, to kind of give you that idea as we move forward. So we're going to look at cruises, all-inclusive resorts, group tours, regular hotels, and house rentals. So first up, the cruise. So this is best for the group who wants the same length of vacation, because you go on a cruise that's 3, 4, 7, 10 nights. You can't join late and you can't leave early. Have different interests because you can customize your vacation through the shore excursions. Have varying budgets. There's a pretty big spread in budget from an interior cabin, that's a cabin without windows, to the nicest suite on the ship. want a more structured agenda. This is what I mean by this is you're going to know every night where you're eating dinner, where you're eating breakfast. Delivered to your room each day is a list of activities that you can choose to participate in if you want. You're only going to spend a certain amount of time in each port, so it has a lot of structure to it. If you want family activities, including supervised kids activities. So many of the cruise ships have a kids club. They have kids activities you can participate in. Where cruises don't have as much is adult only spaces. So some ships will have a special pool that's adults only, or a restaurant that might be adults only, but otherwise it's a pretty family friendly environment. And you don't all have to have passports. As of right now, 2016, cruises leaving from a U.S. port and returning to the same U.S. port, you can board with your government-issued birth certificate and a government-issued photo ID. So just to give you a good idea of what's available. Okay? All right, All-Inclusive Resorts. Oh, that infinity pool is one of my favorites. It's at the Grand Palladium in Puerto Vallarta, a fantastic moderate resort. If you want to know more about it, just email me, Angie at tripswithangie.com. Okay, so all-inclusive resorts. And what I mean by all-inclusive, these are resorts where your meals, your activities, well, most of your activities, and your drinks are included. This is really good for groups who want the ability to vacation for different periods of time. Some people can stay 7 nights, some people can tend to stay 4. They have to have some set of sort of similar interests. In general, most people that head to an all-inclusive resort like to enjoy fun in the sun. You can add on different excursions if you want to make things more adventurous, maybe a zipline tour or a catamaran cruise, or exploring this underground cenotes in Mexico. But in general, it's people who really like that time outside in the sun, enjoying water sports. Varying budgets can be accommodated, again, with the different room categories. And in fact, some resorts are even on a huge campus where 5 or 6 resorts are all together, and each of those resorts have different price points. So you really can have a lot of variation in the budgets it can accommodate. This is great for people who want to have a relaxed itinerary. The resort will offer different activities, depending on the resort, but you don't have quite as much structure as a cruise. It's really good for people who want an adults-only option, because you can find all adults-only all-inclusive resorts or family-friendly resorts that have supervised kids activities. You will need a passport. There are very few all-inclusive resorts within the United States. There's one in South Florida and one on the island of St. Thomas. And then that's about it until you get into the super high-end spa resorts out west that include some meals. So that's kind of an important thing to keep in mind. One thing to keep in mind when heading to an all-inclusive resort is, depending on the size of the group, you may need to make some accommodations for you to dine together. So if you have larger groups of 10, 15, 20 people who all want to eat together at the same time in the same restaurant, some resorts may require a preset menu. So that's just something to keep in mind. Next up, we have a group tour. So here is just a sample itinerary of a group tour to Ireland. So this is a 12-day tour all over Ireland. And with the idea being, that you go to each city, you spend the night, you're on a bus, you do group tours. So this is a really interesting option for people who want the same length of vacation, have similar interests, the same budget, and want to do everything together on the same schedule. That's really important. This is a way for people who share a hobby to vacation together. So for instance, if you have a genealogy group and you're all of Irish descent, this would be a wonderful option for you. You guys could all go over to Ireland. You have this structured itinerary, including tours that are key to your interest, and you would be able to explore all of that together and not have to worry about a thing. A bus would pick you up from the airport, be with you the entire time, and drop you back off. So this is just a really fantastic option for that type of a group. You really want to make sure that you do things together and that you do have those similar interests. It's very hard to customize this type of experience because a lot of times the group tour companies have preset agendas and itineraries. So you could join a preset tour. So for instance, let's say the Celtic Tours has a tour that is available for 40 people. Well, you and 19 of your friends could join that tour. Or you could ask to have a customized tour made for just the 20 of you. Obviously, joining a set tour is going to be a little lower priced because they've already, built in the price of everything. They already know exactly what the tours are going to be. They've negotiated volume discounts with the hotels and the tour guides. So that may be an option to kind of come in at a lower price point versus, doing your own customized group tour from scratch. But there's a lot of opportunity within this type of vacation, but it's just really important that everybody wants to do the exact same thing for the exact same length of time for the exact same amount of money, and that you want to be together all the time. Okay, next up is just a regular hotel. So you just pick a city and you head to a regular hotel that's there and explore the local area. Now, this is, good for groups that want to go for different lengths of time, have similar interests. You can accommodate different budgets. This is a really good option for groups that can easily make decisions. The what are we going to do today kind of groups, like where do we want to go today? Where do we want to eat? What do we want to see? Some resorts offer structured kids activities or adult-only options. And again, the location of the hotel is flexible, so the passport isn't always necessary. You can kind of do a middle ground between this one and that fully booked group tour, and pick a regular hotel and then add on different standalone tours in the city. So for instance, you guys could decide you all want to go to London for a week, or most of you want to be there for a week, and you could pick the hotel, and that could be your central location, and then we could add on and customize with maybe a Buckingham Palace tour for those who are interested, or a cruise down the river for those who are interested. So you could customize it from there by adding in different tours without having it be quite as structured as the group tour. Then the last option is a house rental. So this is, become very popular as websites like Vacation Rental by Owner and Airbnb have popped up, that you and a group of your friends just head somewhere and rent a house. And so this is really good for groups that, again, want that same length of time, because you have to commit to the house for a certain period of time, have similar interests, have the same budget, can easily make decisions, don't need structured activities, and again, the passport doesn't really come into play as you pick the location of your house. The important thing here is that everyone has the same understanding going in what's going to happen. Who's going to be responsible for the cleaning? How are you going to handle meals? Is the expectation that all of you are going to be together all the time? Are there tours that need to be set up? The location of the house is incredibly important in terms of whether or not or how many rental cars you'll need for people to be able to go off and explore the area you're staying in. So there's a lot that goes into setting up a rental house to make sure it's a successful experience beyond just finding a house from a reputable dealer. But it can be a terrific experience. I did it for my 35th birthday and it was great. But we learned a lot of lessons. We weren't really clear about how lunch was going to happen. We didn't rent a car, which we should have. There was some inequalities in who paid for groceries and who didn't. So it was part of those lessons you're seeing in this webinar right now in terms of how to make a group trip really successful. So now you have kind of an overview of the different options that are available for groups. The way I can help is I can recommend for you the best options based on the needs of your group. And we can look at like, this might work or this might work, but the big thing is that I can help you customize your vacation to overcome the cons of any one option. If people are saying, oh man, the all-inclusive sounds pretty good, but I can help you through those buts, and help you explain to your fellow group members sort of why this option would be best or what they're trading off by going to a different option. So now that you kind of understand the different options, the big thing here is, how do you make this decision? How do you make the decision about where to go on a group trip? And there's two ways to do it: by consensus or by yourself. And so the decision making by consensus, this is really good for groups where everyone is 100% committed to go, where they are ride or die, they are going. And because what ends up happening is, if you try to do decision by consensus, where you let everybody have a say and you're trying to find an option that makes everybody happy, and everyone isn't 100% committed to go, you can end up with a decision nobody really likes, isn't sure how they got there, because some of the people who were advocating for it ended up not going. So that's something, really important to keep in mind, that everybody has to be 100% committed to go. And not, I'll decide once we pick where we're going. If we don't pick where I like, I'm not going to go. If this really is about finding a compromise that makes everybody a little bit happy. The other reason that you would want to do decision by consensus is if there are members of the group who have really strong personalities who will want a say in the final decision. So that's something you have to kind of keep in mind when you're looking at that. So then the other option is to decide and invite, then invite. So you, as the group leader, you just say, I decided we are going to this resort on these days, and all of you are welcome to join us. So this is best for group leaders with specific vacation needs who don't mind a smaller group, because the downside of this way of doing it is that people may not come. The dates may not work for them. They may not want to go to that resort. So it's really important that you be okay with that. And sort of a hybrid of this that I've seen is like two couples will get together and make the decision and then invite. So you do a little bit of decision by consensus, but then when you open it up to the wider group, it's already decided, what the parameters are. Or the group leader will decide on the country. They'll say, we want to go to Mexico, or they'll decide on the type of vacation. We want to go on a cruise. And then from there, they can make the decision about which option is best. And then you can get input from everybody, like Caribbean cruise versus Alaskan cruise versus European cruise. So you're not starting from scratch. You've already made sort of some of the decisions throughout the process. I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions on it, shoot me an email, Angie@tripswithangie.com. All right. So this is where I am tremendously helpful, having a third-party person in the mix. I have made surveys for groups where we, just do a survey where people indicate their preference on times of year or locations or type of trip. I've hosted conference calls to get everybody together to answer the group's questions, and in real time be giving pricing information and different trade-offs for the decisions that get made, and reminding the group about what they said their highest priorities were. And then I can resolve any issues that come up because I have in-depth knowledge of all the options available. So if it looks like we're getting close to a decision and somebody raises an objection, I can help you overcome that by offering a customized solution, or maybe tweaking the itinerary we had to make it more amenable to what that person wants. So this is where I can be really, really helpful in getting to a decision, because it's hard to get to a decision on a group trip. And I love when I get my emails from my group leaders that are like, we were so close, and then somebody brought up this, so now we're back to the drawing board. And that's usually at the point I say, all right, get me on a call with everybody. Let's see if we can bring this home and make a decision. The other key piece of this, and this is the stay friends part. So the beginning of this was the how to travel together part, and the end of this is the how to stay friends part. And the how to stay friends part is having a really important conversation about expectations, so that everybody is on the same page going into the trip about what to expect. So you want to talk about, how much time do you want to spend together each day? Is the expectation that everyone does everything together Will people go their own way during the day and then meet up later for dinner? Is there one event you'd like everyone to attend? So, for instance, I'm planning a 40th birthday party, a couple of them actually, in Mexico. And the group leader of one trip said, you know what, I don't really care what everybody does. I'm excited. I figure I'll see them around the resort. But on my birthday, I want to have a dinner and I want to have it off site and I want everyone to go. And so we built in from the beginning the expectation, like, if you're not coming for the whole time, please make sure you're there the night of the 31st, because that's when the birthday dinner is going to be. So everybody knows what's going on. And the other thing we need to talk about is, do any of the travelers have special needs? So if the expectation is that everyone is going to be doing everything together, or at least some things together, it's really important to keep in mind any physical limitations, allergies, or preferences that would greatly impact the type of activity that is chosen. So for instance, if you want everybody to go to a group dinner together and somebody has a food allergy, we have to make sure that the restaurant can accommodate that food allergy. If your dream is that everybody hikes the Inca Trail, but someone in your group has a walker, we need to figure out what options there are for that person so they don't feel left out, or at least it's communicated in advance what's going on and what the alternative will be for them. If you want a trip that involves a lot of high activity, high adventure, but you've invited families with very small children, we need to figure out a solution to that, whether or not they can come with, whether or not we need to find a nanny or some other type of service to take care of the children while the adults do it. So it's really important to keep all that in mind when making decisions about the group trip. The other thing is being really clear who is allowed to join the trip. I have seen girlfriend getaways go astray when one woman decides to bring her husband and the entire group just falls apart, because they never explicitly said from the beginning it was a girls only trip. It just so happened that it was only girls going. And so it's really important to be really clear about who is coming on this trip. Is it adults only? Is it our families welcome? Our families welcome with younger children? Are there going to be activities for high schoolers in the resort you choose? So just having that really good sense of who are the people going to be that come on the trip. And then, how will you pay for things that are not included in your vacation package? Cruises and all-inclusive resorts are easy choices for group trips because your meals are included on cruises and at the all-inclusives, and then at the all-inclusive your drinks are included too. And so for regular hotels, for group tours, for house rentals, it's really important that there's a conversation about how are we paying for meals? Are we just splitting the check the whole time and it all even out? Is everybody always getting separate checks? Like, what are we doing? How is this going to be handled in advance so that everyone is really clear about what's going to happen and what their contribution is expected to be? So speaking of money, let's talk about how to save it. All right. So on cruises, most cruise lines offer incentives for groups of 8 cabins or more, where you can get a discounted rate if you book far enough in advance, or some additional onboard credit, or maybe a special happy hour for just your group, depending on how large your group is. And then there's a couple other ones that will offer onboard incentives for groups as small as 5 cabins. So it's just kind of important to know how big you think your group's going to be so we can set it up right from the beginning. And as I said, you can lock in lower rates if your group cabin, if you book a group of cabins at least a year in advance. Okay, how to save money on hotels and all-inclusive resorts. So there's 2 different kind of groups configurations. One is a contracted group, and this is where you're going to get the lowest rate potentially, because you are guaranteeing to the resort or hotel that you're going to bring them a certain number of people, and they're going to reward you for that by giving you some additional benefits or a lower rate, or maybe even a free rate room for you. It just depends on the resort. But this requires a signed contract guaranteeing a certain number of rooms to get a guaranteed lower price. And if you don't get that number of rooms, then the whole thing falls apart. You'll have to pay prevailing rates. So this is a great way to save money, but everybody really has to go. Like, you really have to have at least 10 rooms, and they all have to be committed to go. The other option that's a little more flexible is what we call a flexible group. It's well named. So that has smaller promotional savings depending on the resort you choose. So basically, I get you a promo code. Everybody books under that promo code into your group, and then they get a certain amount off of their booking for having booked into the group. The downside of this is you aren't locking in a rate because you're not guaranteeing a certain number of people. You're not getting that benefit of that guaranteed lower rate. So some members of the group may end up paying more than others because they booked at different times. This is just a good incentive for everybody to book at the same time to make sure you're on the same flights and you pay the same. When it comes to excursion and transfers, it's so important to double check and see if private options may be less expensive than scheduled tours or shuttles. So I'll give you a good example. I was working on a transfer from a port to an airport yesterday. The shuttle cost was $38 per person. There were 6 of them traveling. To get a private car service for the 6 of them cost $60. So obviously a huge savings for them to all go in together and get those private transfers. So people sometimes shy away from doing things private or custom because they think it'll be more expensive, and that's where I can come in and help you evaluate that. But it's important to look at it because you can save money. So just keep that in mind. So how I can help? So I can help, negotiate your group rates and these benefits. I think a big benefit that a lot of group leaders have told me was really meaningful to them was just to have someone else to answer their questions, to coordinate the group activities and arrange all your transfers. One of my group leaders emailed me the other day. She goes, "Can I just tell you how awesome it is when we're all together with my friends and they start asking me all these questions about the trip, and I just look at them and say, call Angie, text Angie, email Angie. Like, I just call her. I don't want to go through this with you again. I don't want to answer this question for you again. Just call Angie. She'll help you." And she's like, "It's just so nice. It makes group travel so much easier." So yeah, so it is nice to have another person to refer people to. So you don't feel like the tour guide. You just feel like the cool person who put a group together. And then obviously I can set up any special activities or events for your group. So how do you get a hold of me? At 813-501-3106. I do have to warn you, I am a little unreliable to get on the phone. And the reason for that is I am on hold a lot. Part of my job is getting on the phone with these travel operators, airlines, hotels to make sure everything is going great for my clients. And that involves a lot of time being on hold. So the fastest way to get a hold of me is to email me, Angie@tripswithangie.com. Or you can set up a free 20-minute chat at tripswithangie.youcanbook.me, and that way I will know for sure not to get on a call where I could potentially be on hold at the time I've committed to call you. So that just kind of protects your time. So again, I really hope you enjoy this. I hope this is helpful. I'd love to get your feedback. Did I cover enough? Did I not cover enough? What do you wish I'd covered? What questions do you have? So please, please, please email me, Angie@tripswithangie.com, or you can always find me at Facebook and Instagram, Trips with Angie. Otherwise, have an awesome day. Bye.